Okay, so after the video stopped in that last tutorial in this playlist, I went through and copied what we did, the changing this string that shows in the speech bubble over to all of the NPCs. I also figured out why my keyboard kept sticking. And so now each one shows a different string. But you'll notice currently the only way we have to turn that string on and off is by another collision. Oh, well, maybe I didn't fix the keyboard sticking issue. So, but we're getting a different string, but the only way we can turn it off is to have another collision. So we really want that to disappear when we enter a correct answer. So to keep this example simple, my thought is just if the correct answer is entered in the input box, we shut off the dialog box. And if the incorrect answer is there, we'll just leave it there. That should get us through this tutorial. So first thing to check is maybe just make sure we can turn it off a key press, and then we'll work in the check. So let's do the key press first. So to set up the key press to make sure it turns off, we can do that right on the speech bubble control. Currently, all we have in there is the start event, which that happens once at the beginning, but listening for a key press, such as hitting the enter key like a user would be finished answering the question, well, that's where we don't know when that's going to happen. We need to just check for it over and over and over again. So we can put that in the update unit. If the search feature can find it, hopefully it won't take too long here. There it is. So in our update event, well, we need to ask the question, like, so we'll need a branch structure, which is under control, and then a branch. So we're going to do one of two things, and we only want to clear the box if the user answers the question, which part of that is going to be the hitting the enter key. They'll type in the answer and then hit enter. So we need to check for the input to see if the input was pressed. So earlier we used the input axis somewhere down here for our normal controls, but we can just search for an input key as well. So let's do input get key and see if the user presses a key. In particular, if the user presses the enter key, which should be on this list somewhere. Oh, there it is. The return key. So if the user types in an answer and hits enter, well, in a moment we'll get around to checking that answer. But first off, let's just see if we can make that box disappear. So if they hit enter, we should be able to clear that box. So we want to set active. So we'll look for game object set active. Which probably would have been quicker just to copy that one that's already up here. I noticed it in the background while I was searching. Probably could have just copied that down. Because we're going to take the thing we're looking at, so it's going to apply to itself, and we're going to turn it off. So we'll just set a Boolean literal to false, which means we leave the checkbox unchecked. So now that should hide the speech bubble whenever we push the enter key. So let's check that and see if it works. So we come back over here and do a run for a test. Now with it running, you can see that the dialog box pops up, and when we press the enter key, it went away. Another collision with the character, hit the enter key, and the dialog box goes away. And when we go talk to a different character, get a different question, And when we hit enter, the dialog box goes away. So it looks like that worked just to clear the box out of there. So I'll go ahead and stop that run. And, well, maybe there's one more thing we need to do. Let's run that again. I just realized there could be a problem there still. So if we come over here, bring up the speech bubble on this one, normally we would type an answer in there. So the blank operator returns the remainder after dividing by 1. So the answer to that should be modulus, which we're not checking yet. Bring that up. But notice when it disappeared and came back up, that was still there. So we should probably clear that input box. That way the previous answer isn't still showing on the next question. So I'll stop this run. And then we can do that right here. So after we set our game app, turn that off, the next thing in the flow is we can set the text on that input field to just be a blank string. Oh, whoops, I selected the wrong one. Let me change that real quick. I'm going to delete that one and look for that again. If you didn't notice what I accidentally typed there, I'd put set the text on a text, but our input box, our answer was the one that we want those words cleared out of, is an input field. So we need input field set text to a blank string, and then what are we going to set it to? Well, like we've seen many times, we need a reference to that input field. So I'll come over here and set up a new variable. Just to make it easy to spot, I'll call it answer. The same thing as the game object. It will be of type game object, and the value will be that answer game object. And that's the one we want to reset the value of for that. So whenever we go to make sure we can clear the speech bubble out of there, I'll go ahead and group this stuff together and call this clear question. Just stick a little label on there to tell what those things are. Then as a group, once a group, we can move them all together, help keep things organized. Because we still need to check that value, but first we want to make sure we can clear it out nicely. So let's go give this a run, a quick test. So now that it should work, so a question gets asked, we'll enter some text in there, hit enter to check our answer, that makes that go away, and when we go talk to the next character, the input box is empty. So that looks like everything's working. Type something in, hit enter, that clears that out of there. So the last thing we'll have to do is check that answer. And that'll be it for this quick, brief example, these tutorials leading to a quick example. We'll just check the answer, and looks like this one's running a little long, so I will put that in the next tutorial. Just work right in here. We need to check that answer before we clear the field. And that'll be in the next video.